Hello, my friends, family, dear colleagues. I was asked to address calcium again. Well, there is a lot of talk about the necessity of calcium, and many people suffer from osteopenia, which then is being blamed on lack of calcium, and people are given supplements of calcium. Well, do we need those supplements? And how much calcium should be received in the food? We have to understand one thing, that science is misleading us. When I am talking about cellular hydration, I always say that the cells can hydrate passively and actively. Unfortunately, in modern society, the hydration is basically passive through regular flow of lymph plasma in and out of the cell. And for active hydration, osmotic pump has to be engaged, which requires higher concentration of potassium inside of the cell, or in Europe we say kalium. No? And I have mentioned that cells do produce potassium when they want to hydrate, when they are allowed to hydrate, better say. Because the hydration, as everything else in a body, is controlled process. We have programs, preset programs, that do support our system. And when potassium is needed, the cells are triggered in producing it. And they produce it basically by shifting the vibration from one to another. And to increase vibration, which this is the case, you have to increase vibration of sodium so it vibrates in the vibration of potassium, higher vibration. Now, for this you need to put energy in there. Energy is done through heat. You heat up food, you increase the energy. But how do you increase heat in a cell? To do this by increasing voltage. And this is why in a cell we have this crystalline body which increases the voltage and heats up the sodium. Now, when we are talking about calcium, and again, this is not imagination, this actually was proven. And there was an experiment, I'm just here, in June 21st of 1964. Experiment was done by two Japanese scientists, George Osawa and Michio Kushi. And in laboratory, they made experiment, and they needed actually to increase the voltage to 60 watts to create the transformation of sodium into potassium. Now, what's happening with calcium? Basically, very similar thing. Only the difference between potassium and calcium is only 1 unit of energy. Now, this unit of energy, what is? Well, unit of energy in classic physics, we call it electron. the unit of energy in biology is called hydrogen, but it's the same thing. So you basically need one hydrogen to add to potassium to increase the vibration, so it vibrates in the vibration of calcium. Remember, you cannot understand anything clearly unless you start going into quantum. Now, quantum is very much misunderstood, because when we go into so-called quantum physics, it's all about particles. It's all about black holes. What creates black hole? Particle. Okay? Well, to create particle, you already need creator. So, this is manifestation. And to manifest it, it has to be first formed in a field of energy, of sacred geometry, in a quantum field. So, as soon, physicists are arguing why certain explanations being done by physicists about black holes, the implosion. Well, it is all done on base of particles. So you are talking about Newtonian physics, you are not talking about quantum physics. So the misconception about, quantum physics doesn't exist because this doesn't, you're talking about particles. This is a completely different story. In a quantum field, quantum physics is nothing but energy in a waveform. And what quantum field can produce is from vesica Pisces or Pisces, it produces electricity, electromagnetism, and light. All of them are in a waveform. This is why the movement of electricity, there are no particles. We invent particles so we can kind of explain what's happening. And of course we are always wrong, because things, wrong. It serves us sometimes because the explanation we manifest. So we manifest the end result as we expect it to be, because the way how the ego, the consciousness understands it. Ultimately, everything is consciousness. Consciousness produces energy. But it starts from a quantum field. And anything above, anything that involves particles, you are already manifesting. So you already need sophisticated machine, brain, to manifest. You take brain out of equation, everything disappears, because nothing is out there, everything is here. Well, when we go into now our reality, our manifested reality, we are now trying to figure out, how did the consciousness do this? And the consciousness of physicality, that only knows the physical stuff, what it can see and feel and touch, it cannot really comprehend what it cannot experience, which is the quantum field. It can only work with the physical stuff, where particles are already created by our physicality, the brain. So, when we are talking about calcium, we are talking about manifestation, physicality, but it starts in a quantum field. Then it is being replicated and put in a particle form, so we can actually make some sense out of it, based on, as far as we can come up with the understanding we have so far. Same as the cells are producing potassium. And again, why they have to do it? because there is no cellular hydration done through osmosis unless you increase number of particles to make it denser. And you cannot make it denser with sodium because size-wise it's smaller. It has smaller energetic field. And the size of energetic field depends on energy it has. More electrons, more energy. So some saying, well, but potassium behaves differently, and when it heats up and shrinks, we are trying to, again, use our understanding so far to influence understanding that we don't really understand. So we are fishing. Why do we find sodium, natri, in a cell, but most of it is in a circulation? Because the size of the energetic field allows it to penetrate and go in and out of the cell. Since potassium energetic field is larger, it cannot passively enter the cell. It has to be pushed. Body does it when it goes into inflammation. But inflammation causes increased pressure on sensory nerve, so causes pain, discomfort. So it is body's signaling that it has to use forceful things to achieve something which could be achieved normally if you correct your lifestyle, if you stop poisoning yourself. But normally it should hydrate through osmotic pump. To increase number or the density of the liquid inside, you have to increase number of particles. So cell does it by increasing potassium. Why potassium? Because potassium cannot easily penetrate through the membrane, so it gets trapped there. So if it's trapped in a membrane, so it cannot get through it and stays in a cell, how the heck did it come in? Well, it didn't come in. This is the thing. It doesn't come into the cell from the blood. It is created in a cell, and then when the cell pressure rises because of the absorption now of liquid, then through pressure it pushes some of the potassium into the blood. Also, when cells break down, potassium is released in the blood. This is why whenever you have some necrotic process, you will have a lot of potassium in the blood. So there is a mechanism that controls a lot of calcium in the blood. Oh, no, in this case potassium, we're talking about potassium. So this is what potassium does and how potassium is being maneuvered in a blood. Eating it will not penetrate cells. Why do we have some vegetable that has more potassium than other? Because the cell, the fruit or plant by itself produces it. It's not because there is more potassium in the soil. Plant produces it. Now with calcium, it is the same situation. Body needs calcium, and it will produce exactly the amount of calcium that it needs. And it produces it by raising vibration of potassium for 1 unit of energy, 1 hydrogen. if you convert it into Newtonian physics, you go from 19 electrons to 20 electrons, which is a difference between potassium and calcium. This is why chicken can lay eggs and create all that calcium it needs to make the eggshell. Not because there is so much calcium in a food, which means everybody eating that kind of food will now be loaded with calcium. Ain't happening. Just use Google. So in the body we have a controlling mechanism of distributing this calcium. And for this purpose, we have thyroid gland that produces calcitonin. This chemical stuff, I am losing already memory of this stuff. Because I'm not really focusing anymore on the chemistry. I'm focusing on energy. And this is the quantum field. We are stepping in the quantum age. All the new healing equipment will be based on frequency, on energy. No more chemical poisoning. So, body with calcitonin is going to kind of be adjusting where the calcium goes. And now, and also how much calcium will be produced. This is stimulant. This is a hormone that is going to be stimulating cells to produce more or less calcium. Now, in my opinion, when gout occurs, it is not really a result of problems with iodine, it is more result of problems with calcium. And not because there is not enough calcium. So more calcitonin has to be made. But actually it is because there is too much calcium in the blood and it starts accumulating and creates hardening of thyroid gland. And also in the body, we go into hardening of arteries. But at the same time, we go into osteoporosis. So how does that work? Too much calcium in the blood, but bones are losing calcium. Well, because again, it's a control mechanism. Everything is control mechanism. To deposit minerals, in this case calcium, you need alkaline medium. So what happens inside of a bone, there are particular cell called osteoblasts which alkalize the area by producing alkalized buffer. Alkalized phosphatase, we call it. So when there is enough osteoblasts, and if they are creating enough buffer, whenever calcium delivered through lymphatic system hits the area, if it's alkalized, it starts sedimenting and holding the calcium there. The bones, since they are living part of the body, so they always constantly adjust to the necessity. Body is created as a very functional and controlled mechanism. So if your lifestyle becomes sedentary and your weight is low, there is no need for bones to be strong. So they start thinning down, which means that the minerals have to be first taken out and then resedimented in a different shape and form. So this is done by cells called osteoclasts, which acidify the areas of the bone that has to be melted away. Acids will melt minerals. We know it. Plants produce acids to bore in a stone, liquefying the mineral. We call it humic acids. So the cells will basically melt parts of the bone. Again, it's control system. So energetically it's being triggered which part has to be melted. Then the collagen fibers are being created from protein as armature. And then osteoblast is going to be releasing alkalinity to alkalize the area, so then as the calcium comes in, it starts sedimenting. How do we disrupt this? Why there is so much osteopenia and osteoporosis? Osteopenia is a milder symptom when, okay, your density of the bones are not there, but you are still not in a critical position like osteoporosis. So what happens here? Your cells will be triggered to produce enough potassium, calcium. So the calcium will be put in the circulation. Calcitonin is going to signal, produce potassium, calcium, produce calcium. Well, calcium comes to the bone, but there is no buffer. So it cannot sediment. It will just flow through and return back into circulation. And since cells are communicating and the mechanism says, okay, well, we need calcium here, get me more calcium. So cells continue producing. But the thyroid has to produce the hormone and then manage it. So the more problems you have with the bones, the more calcium you are actually producing. But since it cannot be deposited, well, it will be deposited when there is alkalinity. And our blood always has to be alkaline. So, at the same time, your body is getting toxic, flow of energy is going down, you start feeling tired, which means the electromagnetic field is weak. This signifies that blood vessels, magnetic field will be weak. So very low repulsion. And easily calcium will start sedimenting, embedding into the tissue of blood cells because they are alkaline. You get arteriosclerosis, which make blood vessels brittle, hard but brittle. Still, there is a big surplus of calcium occurring. So body has to take it out. You will urinate it. You will find calcium in your urine. Everybody in osteoporosis has calcium in the urine. So there is so much calcium in the blood that body has to waste plasma to get rid of it. It's acting now as a diuretic, lowering the blood plasma levels even further, creating a more toxic environment. Why is bone not able to alkalize itself? Because we eat diet that acidifies our blood. And no, it's not meat, as we are being told. Remember, everything we are being preached to by science in medical school is contrary to the truth. So they say, no, meat acidifies the body, and then they'll give you kakamakai story about it, that, chemically, that's why I said screw biochemistry. It is here to mislead us. Because actually, we are physical, electronic device. Everything runs on physics. We should kick biochemistry away. So what happens is that when you eat carbohydrates, yes, body will utilize some for energy because it will be forced to do so, which I explained. By forcing it, body has to genetically reprogram itself, which creates problems. But it will burn and convert some of carbs, of glucose, into energy. But we eat way too much of it because it's addictive. Sugar is addictive. So instead of having one fistful of rice a day, like Chinese and Japanese do, we load full plate and 2-3 times a day, 4 times a day or more. And the body cannot burn it. So it is forced to convert it into fat because it cannot store it. It is not designed to store carbohydrate. So it turns it into fat. We become fat. This transformation is done in the liver. So we got fatty liver. But when this is being done, a lot of uric acid is produced. We are being told, no, fructose converts to uric acid. That's it. That's a baloney. Every sugar that is converted into fat, side product, in our body is going to be uric acid. So you eat a lot of rice, you eat pasta, you eat bread, you will be producing a lot of uric acid. Now, small amount of uric acid, small level, is tolerated and should be in a body, in a blood. But we are producing way too much of it, which has to be neutralized. So buffers are being redirected from a bone and from a liver, from bile. Buffers are redirected into the blood to neutralize the acid. And now the bone, instead of alkalizing itself, has to alkalize the blood. There is no alkalinity left for the bone itself, no sedimentation of calcium and salts, because bones are not made only of calcium. 30% of it is salt, different salts, 12 salts that we have. Okay, it's all inside of the bone. It's a reserve of salts. You don't use salt on a food, body needs salt, it will try to recommission some of it from the bone. But again, it's a controlled process, so it cannot get it unless the bone is triggered into change. It's a physics. It's all bone responds to pressure. And instead of understanding that carbohydrates create problems on every level as far as our body goes, we keep saying, no, glucose is a safe carbohydrate because your body can use it. Unsafe is fructose because body cannot use it, so it has to turn it into fat. Yeah, it cannot use it, so doesn't make any genetic changes. And yes, it will turn into fat and it will produce uric acid. But if you don't eat glucose, very small amount, the absorption of sugar will be very low. So you won't be able to absorb, no matter how many fruits you eat, how much honey you eat, how much maple syrup you drink, you will not be able to increase the absorption. Because it's a fructose. Fructose is the safest sugar. It's, again, contrary to everything we are being told. The only sugar available to animals is a nectar. Nectar is fructose. We are being told, no, it's a glucose. Glucose is not allowed to be in touch with animal body. And this is why it is always shielded in cellulose. Nectar is not shielded with cellulose, it's a fructose. I don't care what chemists will tell me. I simply don't trust science at all. Observation. So, whenever we have a problem with bones, and again, calcium is being used in many different functions in the body, including memory, work of a brain. It's also mineral that carries a charge, contributes to electroconductivity. So, but too much of it, and again, we are stimulating the body. Bones are getting brittle, so the request comes, okay, we need calcium. So calcium is being produced, but then it cannot be deposited. So it gets deposited in all the wrong places where there is still little alkalinity, basically blood vessels, and some organs, which remain alkaline, causing part of it crystallizing there and causing stones. But the excess is going to be eliminated through urine and defecation. Same thing. It's blood cleansing. Blood will eliminate the surplus, losing more plasma. So it's a vicious cycle created by incorrect diet and incorrect hydration, keeping away from salt, which you actually now need it in excess, because you have to not only normalize or raise the plasma levels of the blood, but you also need it to eliminate the surpluses. So you need way much more plasma, you need way more water and minerals to do this thing, which we don't do, especially if you are vegan, vegetarian, you are being told no salt. And you schmucks, you need most of it, because carnivore diet brings all the minerals in. You don't need extra. Unless your body is toxic and needs to cleanse, then you need to supply more water and more minerals to help with the cleansing process, because you cleanse with plasma, not with water. You never lose water in cleanse, you lose plasma. You lose water and minerals. Learning the truth is very important, but correctly. Stop going to schools. Stop paying for the colleges. They teach you nonsense. Connect directly with the source. Learn from the source. Well, it's not so easy because you have to devote time to it. And we are in a fast society. We are always running. So you are being given a book. You read it in a couple hours and now you know everything. Well, getting the information from a source, it needs way more, way more. Time, patience, trust, faith. But at least you get truth out of it. So everyone having problem with gout, everyone having problem with concentration, everyone having problem with osteopenia, osteoporosis. We have to start looking at calcium in a completely different way. Don't supplement it. Supplement freaks. Supplement pushers are no different than pharmaceutical pushers. Because we do not need any of these supplements, body produces everything. What we need to stop poisoning ourselves and learn the truth. Eat correctly. Raw food, or as raw as you can take it. If you eat plants raw, you get 0 nutrients out of them, you will die. If you eat fruits only, you will die. Unless you start heating them up, increasing their vibration, to extrapolate from them by breaking cellulose, some stuff, but it's a wrong stuff for animal body, for our body. The only thing that will provide you everything you need when taken raw, as all the animals eat and we should do the same, is going to be animal-based products. From dairy, eggs, to anything that crawls or walks or flies. That you can eat raw, and when you do it, you need way smaller quantity. A lot of people say, yeah, but it's expensive to eat so much meat. Well, if you think of eating 3 times a day, big meal, big chunk of meat, yeah, of course. But when you eat correctly, when you don't destroy the food by heating it, you can sear it lightly. So most of it is still, almost all of it's still raw, and you just get little crust on the outside so it looks like it's cooked. You will see, one little steak, one ribeye is for me okay for the whole day. And I eat once a day. At night, I may want to snack something, so sometimes I snack on a piece of cheese or have a glass of milk. But it's not because I need it. It is just because, habit. And sometimes I eat peanuts and stuff that I'm definitely not supposed to eat, and then I pay for it because it creates immediately discomfort. And cleaner and better synchronized your body is, extended telomeres, the more sensitive you become to poisons. I used to live on peanuts and ice cream and beer when I came to the United States, the first few years. Now, I have peanuts, right away I feel like a rock came in my stomach. If I repeat it next day, pow, I get gas, I really feel bad. Because my body is now on a different level. My telomeres are extended. I'm cleaner, I vibrate differently, and a wrong vibration has stronger impact on me. And everyone who goes through self-healers protocol and they start feeling great, they become more sensitive to toxic food. Just received a letter from a client that has visited other countries and how sick they became. And immediately, oh, maybe it's some bacteria, maybe it's a wrong vibration. And they admit, yeah, food tasted really weird, Yeah, it's a different spicing, again, toxins. Getting toxins, your body is way more sensitive. Is it a good thing or bad thing? Well, definitely good thing, because it reminds you, don't do that stuff, because you're going to get sick, you're going to get toxic. And it goes with detox right away. And detox causes symptoms. Headache, drowsiness, fever, mucus production, throwing out the toxins through mucosal tissue. This is cleansing. This is healing process. It's not getting sick. Its body is defending itself. Well-functioning body. So as far as calcium goes, whatever you hear and is accepted, especially by science, throw it in the garbage. Because science is here to mislead us. Thank you for listening. Don't supplement. You have an osteoporosis, problem with bones, whatever I have mentioned before, change your diet. Stop poisoning yourself with plants. Go into carnivore diet. Remember, every animal is in ketogenic state. Even babies, when they are born, they are in ketogenic state. We turn them into glucoholic state when we start feeding them the wrong diet. And everything shifts and disease occurs. You don't see animals sniffing, sneezing, having fever, spilling their guts, sweating in nature, having flu. Doesn't exist. Because they are never nearly as toxic as we are. And their bodies work correctly, and they are all in ketogenic state. You go into fasting, immediately your body goes into ketogenic state. Because your reserve of food is the fat that you have. And body has to readjust to properly process, create energy from this fat. And the only way to do it is to go into ketogenic state. So after you break fast, break it with the same thing. Break it with the fat. Fat and protein, animal protein. Raw. And you will see you will not have any bad feeling. You will not need slow transition now to eating again. Why you need, after having longer fast, let's say 3-week fast, you cannot go and eat a piece of bread and well-done eggs. Just your intestines, they will lock, they will freeze, there will be no movement, you will blow up, you will be in excruciating pain. You have to poison yourself slowly to again take body out of ketogenic state into the glucoholic state and have it run on all the wrong programs, but that will tolerate your stupidity. Thank you for listening to this rant. Till next time, love you all. God bless you. Namaste.